welcome to the episode that we have Mickey on. Then I'll pick on Mickey then, right? And then I'll go through the Jackie McNamara stuff then, right? Hello and welcome to episode 53 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Balls&Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself Paul. Join us tonight, we have Michael, that's Michael Dundee from our forum where Celtic fans discuss everything Celtic, that's celticrumours.co.uk. Tonight, talking about former Celtic player and fans' favourite Jackie McNamara, and Jackie McNamara will be also join us on the podcast later tonight. So Mikey's with us there now, Mikey, yeah?
Yeah, guys.
Perfect. I just walk away there. So Jackie McNamara started his professional career at Downfall in 1991. Jackie signed for Celtic in 1995 and would go on to spend 10 years at Celtic. During his 10 years at Celtic, Jackie made 256 appearances, scoring 10 goals, winning the Scottish Premier League 4 times, the Scottish Cup 3 times, and the Scottish Luck 3 times. In 1996, Jackie was named Scotland's Young Player of the Year. In 1998, Jackie was named Scotland's Player of the Year by his fellow professionals in the sport. In 2003-2004 season, Jackie beat off competition from his fellow teammates Henrik Larsson and Chris Sutton to become the SFWA Footballer of the Year. In 2004-2005, Jackie was given the captain's armband due to injury picked up by Celtic captain Paul Lambert, and for his reward to his loyalty at the club. For 10 years, Celtic played a testimonial game against Republic of Ireland to show Jackie how much he meant to the club and how much he meant to Celtic fans. Celtic's new manager in 2005, Gordon Strachan, wanted Jackie McNamara to sign a new contract and to stay at the club, but due to the club's board being too slow in getting Jackie's contract sorted, Jackie already signed for English outfit Wolverhampton Wanderers and bringing his Celtic career sadly to an end in 2005. As before we get Jackie on, Michael, I know he's one of your favourite players growing up, so you're quite delighted to have Jackie on with us tonight, aren't you?
Celtic, right? It's like Mark Celtic overhead, so get him on to the.
You're awfully quiet, Mikey.
Quieter, huh?
Yeah.
Everything up right?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah. Can you hear Mark?
No, I think you're still quiet to me, Paul.
Yeah.
I've not changed anything or that. Everything's.
No, that's a bit better now, Mikey. That's a bit better.
Yeah, like I say, I had my first season, I think it was in 1999-2000 season. So I seen him when he was in his prime at Celtic, so to get him actually on the podcast is.
It is, Mark. He's like Jackie McNamara. I watched him growing up as a young child. Like Jackie was a cult hero, Mark, between the fans, the players. He was a favourite amongst kind of every Celtic supporter, wasn't he?
100%. He's a legend for me, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Would have Jackie McNamara down as a Celtic legend. Without I mean, I don't have him in my team, my favourite Celtic team of all time. Mind we done that episode a while back.
We did.
I mean, first of all, a huge thanks to John, United Ireland, on the forum. It was him that set all this up, so it wouldn't be happening without him. But so I owe him a big debt of gratitude for that. So thanks very much, John. I don't know if he's tuned in or no. But I know Mikey's a bit of a fanboy. I think he's a bit. I think he's more nervous than I am.
Like I said, I even managed to get away from work early to make sure I was back on time.
I bet you're sitting there and you've shaved in that.
It is like we're grown men now. And like I remember the same as Michael's. I'm not far off Mikey's age, but I remember growing up like in the early 2000s and the 90s watching Jackie McNamara, and to have this opportunity to talk to Jackie McNamara, like it's a special day for me, and it's a special day for you, Mark, and it's a special day for Michael as well. That we're able to sit down, talk to, as you said, Mark, a Celtic legend, and share his experience that he had with Celtic, share our experience that we had watching him with Celtic. It's overjoy, that kind of thing.
I totally agree with you, Paul. It's good for the podcast as well. I mean, I'm not even getting on about subscribers or that tonight. It shows that we're doing something right.
Do you want to bring him on, Mark?
Oh, it's a bit early, Paul. It's only 10 to 7.
I'm ahead of myself, but I'm ahead of myself.
I was also going to say, it'll be good to actually speak to someone that was a big part of
that's it. That's it. What we do, we'll go through the different topics, and we'll get his opinion, and then yourself and Mark, then Mikey can ask him questions on those, But what Michael said there, Mark, it's good to talk to someone who's been there and who's done that, to give us an actually insight into the club as a player. And I'm sure Jackie still has numerous contacts within the club. Look, he's been a manager at Dundee United. Was it Dundee United? Yes, Dundee United.
United in York it was down in England.
Partick
Thistle
was where he started.
Yes.
Okay.
Partick Thistle was where he started his career. So
Partick was manager.
But he's been around. He's done that. He's done everything in football. He's international career for Scotland.
The World Cup and that, when you say the World Cup in France, France was that 98, was it over there and that? I mean, he's played in Seville. He's played in a European final. He's won leagues. He's won cups, and 10 years as a Celtic player, as I say, it's just he's a legend as much.
Yeah.
Other people don't kind of get that kind of level of recognition about it.
I don't know how many people actually spend 10 years at Celtic, but there can't be many.
No.
There's not. No, there's not. Like, it's like himself, Skpe, maybe James Forrest. No, I think might be another one. Of all generations, Andrew Mikey. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You think back to just players that have had testimonials. Paul McStay, Peter Grant,
Packy Bonner,
Jackie,
Scott
Brown said one. Is there any in recent years had a testimony?
No, that I can remember. And do you know what it is between Celtic and testimonial? It's actually always against the Republic of Ireland.
It's usually
Packy Bonners was against the Republic of Ireland, and
Man United, if they can fit it into the calendar as well, isn't it? It's always get involved.
It's quite ironic as well. I'm just looking at obviously his playing career just to refresh myself, and I've seen that in 2008 for 2 seasons he played for Falkirk, which is ironic considering what they did for me this year regarding the charity football match.
Oh, I wouldn't have known that, Mikey. He played with Falkirk. I thought he stopped right away after Wolves.
No, he went to Aberdeen for.
No, he had a few half seasons and loans and stuff like that. Wanted, yeah.
So the fact that he played for Falkirk for 2 years, that's kind of ironic as well.
Like he's had amazing career, like not just in Scotland, like, but Wolves is a big club as well down in England. Like, I know they're in the Championship, but Wolves is still one of the biggest clubs, Mark, in England as well.
I did that. Wolves are a kind of sleeping giant. Well,
Yeah, like a family kind of a club, Mark, or something, aren't they? There's something about Wolves, you know, they're more of a kind of like what you say, kind of a family orientated club. Like I say, my dad's friend now, like he's a Wolves fan, and the way he talks about Wolves, like, you know, that he you think that they're bigger than what they should be.
Younger
You know what I mean?
Bulls were kind of a top team, Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, I'm giving my age away, you know what I mean? But Bulls were a top team, and again, it's a bit like Leeds. They went down and kind of just struggled to get back on up to the kind of level, the top division in England. But Wolves are a massive club. I used to work with a wee guy. He was actually a West Brom supporter, and he used to tell me that this even the rivalry and the actual in the city, although it wasn't kind of bitterness what we've got in Glasgow, but it was that kind of intense rivalry down in the Black Country they call it, isn't it, down that neck of the woods.
You know, Mikey, I think you'd be a bit shell shocked, I say, when Jackie comes on. I think when you know, because I know you spoke about him a lot on the podcast with us, how you said he was your favourite player numerous of times with us when you were growing up and stuff like that.
I used to annoy my dad because obviously we had Larson and Marafchek and players like that, and obviously when you're younger you used to get names on the back of the top, and it used to annoy my dad as well because McNamara was that long as well.
So it
cost even their money to put on the back.
You know, but just what Mikey said there, Mark.
Like Jan Vinegar then, wouldn't it, Mike?
I know, yeah.
It'd have just been Jan, just letters on.
But Mark, you look what Mikey was saying there, like Mikey there was naming out players like Maracek, Hugh Larson, Sutton, Hartson, Bobo Balde. He played with Boris. The players that look at the players.
Liverpool, and he held his own with them all.
Yeah, and he was still the established right back at the club, considering what we had there, and looking to where the club is now, Mark, that we haven't had a settled right back only for Janovic and Radisson this season. When have Celtic, bar Luxting, had a settled right back? We haven't really, Mark, have we?
No, you know? See, to be honest with you, Paul, I'm not just saying it because he's coming on or anything like that. But see, if you look back, I mean, for me,
there's not many that are better than him, Mark.
No, there isn't, Paul. But even down to people like Kieran Tierney that played for the first team for so many. But Jackie McNamara was here for 10 years.
10 years, Mark. 10 years, you know, and for the Madrid, and even back then, it was kind of uncalled for Mark for a player to stay at the club 10 years, even back then, because he was going into the early 2000s, you know, and the only reason he left really is because the board, again, they were too slow in offering him a contract, and that's why he decided to already, because Gordon Strachan wanted him to stay.
Right.
Because of the experience and stuff like that. Like, you know, why wouldn't you want Jackie McNamara? Why wouldn't you want to keep Jackie McNamara? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's again, Paul, going back to what we spoke about, there's been a problem. That shows you kind of who was a problem it was.
Yeah.
Strachan was here, it was non-football people making football decisions. If the manager wants a player to stay, that should be the main. Crazy money. That should be the main
exactly
specification, stipulation, or whatever you call it.
You know, but it's true what you said, Mark. It's going down again. Like why we have lost kind of so many big players or players who were loyal to the club over the years, and down to you as non-football people making non-football decisions, like, you know what I mean? But that's the biggest problem with Celtic at the moment. And we'll maybe get Jackie's opinion on that when we're talking about the club, Mark. We're going to talk about when he started his career, who the players he played with, the best players he played with. We're talking about the current club now, Mark, where we are at Ange. What does he think of that? How does he think the club scores? We'll get his opinion on everything, you know, because I think Jackie would kind of have a nice scenario, Mark, where he thinks the club is going, or the way Ange is going. Does he actually think we're strong enough? You know, does he think we're too light? You know,
we'll find out where to take on what's going on as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, so it's nearly 7 o'clock, Mark. Do you want to bring him on?
I'm just going to message him, see if he's ready. Hello, Jackie, you there?
Hello, how you doing?
All right, you don't
Hear
need
me
to put,
okay?
you don't need to put your camera on. It's just audio only, Jack.
Oh, all right. No problem, mate.
As much as we love seeing you, Jackie,
That's all right.
Thanks very much for coming on, Jackie. I'm Mark.
Pleasure.
The Irish voice is Paul, and the other Scottish guy is Mikey. We're not going to barge you with questions. Don't worry about it. Just
No problem.
thanks very much for coming on.
Pleasure.
Jack, I think before we start, as myself, Mark, and me, wanted to ask you, how's your health and how you're feeling yourself these days?
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
That's good. That's good.
Gradually getting back to normal as I can.
Yeah.
It's been definitely
That's good.
a lot better than was this time last year anyway. So getting better.
That's the main thing. Jackie, in 1995, when you first signed for Celtic and you stood out in Celtic Park, what was it like? What was the feeling as a young lad going out to Parkhead all those years ago, if you can remember us? Or
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. I mean, when I went through to sign with my dad, and Tommy Burns met me and took me up to the director's box bit, and back then it was just the main stand, and then across the other side it was corner flag to corner flag. You know, the stadium, and it explained obviously what the stadium was going to be like and how the club was changing at this point, and you know, the fans coming back. I think the capacity was just around about 20 odd, just under 30 maybe, 1,000. And you know, he said about what the capacity was going to be, and the fans are coming back, and all the season books that have been bought so far, you know, that season. And yeah, and everything that he said it came true, to be honest. What he'd sold to me. For me personally, yeah, I was absolutely buzzing. So nervous going through, but I was so happy to sign with the club and, you know, play under Tommy to start.
I think that's what you said there, like Tommy Burns. He was such a great Celtic manager as well, and player and legend. Like he was great with young players as well, Jackie, wasn't he? Tommy Burns, wasn't he? He was great in helping young players with their careers and stuff as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Tommy was great with every aspect, you know, on and off the park. You know, speak about that and my book and stuff, like how he helped me and my wife. We had some issues, personal issues, you know, trying to have children, and Tommy was there for us at the start, and him and his wife Rosemary were fantastic for me and my wife.
Played a big part in your life altogether when you were a young man, Jackie.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. He was such a big influence, sort of on and off the pitch, you know, and I think, you know, I think you speak to ex-players and different people that come in contact with Tommy, and you realise how highly regarded, and how not just about the football side, but the human side, you know, he's just a fantastic person.
Mikey, do you want to come in there? Are you all right?
Just that, like what Jackie's saying about like Tommy Burns, you've never ever heard anybody ever have a bad word to say about the guy, and like he says how welcome he made him. All you hear from every player that he's like been under, or it's always about how welcome and the things he goes out. Like even Paolo Di Canio still talks about him to this day as well. How welcome and he made him in Glasgow, and like he says, it's just a shame obviously what happened in that, but it's just like you say. Like, you've never heard anybody ever say any bad words about the guy. It's always been positive.
Jackie, 10 years has been a loss. Like you kind of don't see it now in the modern football. And 10 years being a Celtic, and you played with some great players who were part of some great teams. Was there any player within Celtic that really stood out to you over the years?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, in my 10 years, I was very fortunate with the guys I played with. You know, starting off with guys like Paul McStay, Van Hooijdonk, Guidetti, Kidani, Paolo Di Canio. You know, then watching Henrik come in 97, 98 season and watch him go. You know, the chance to play with Henrik, and you get Marabchik. So, you know, my top three players, obviously, Henrik would be the number 1 with Floyd Moravchik, number 2, and Paul McStay, who was incredible as well. You know, that was my top 3 players there that I played with.
Don't think Simon Donnelly will be happy with that, Jackie, will he?
I think Simon would agree. Anyway, I think Simon and me had a great relationship when we played, a good understanding, you know. But I mean, you know, we both can look at that, and these guys were different level from us.
But about who you played against? Who really impressed you that you played against? Even with Celtic or Scotland?
Against would be, obviously domestically, would be probably Laudrup against Rangers. I thought he was a top player. You know, he was quick, actually quicker with the ball at his feet, and he was chasing it. You know, European wise, Ludovic Giuly probably gave me the hardest game as a Celtic player at Celtic Park when we played Barcelona. And when probably Mark Overmars played against him with Holland, and he was good as well. You know, 2-footed and quick, low centre of gravity. Difficult to show him a side, because he could go inside or outside of you.
Wow, so like naming players there like that you played against there, like it's unbelievable.
Like
fantasy football for us, like playing FIFA, Jackie, for us, you know, like dream of thing. But for juice, like, you know, over 10 years, Jack, like you've been mostly the established right back. Like, was that due to your commitment and your will and stuff like that you kept going, you kept improving?
Yeah, I think in my 10 years I had six different managers. You know, starting with Tommy, then with Wim Jansen. So obviously when Tommy signed me, it was predominantly as a right back. Then Wim came in after Tommy. Then Wim wanted his full backs to defend and not get forward, which kind of killed me a little bit, because that was my game, was bombing forward. So Wim eventually found myself at the team, then came in. The year we stopped 10 in a row, and I played further up the pitch in front of Tom Boyd. You know, and I had a good season. The Players' Player of the Year, and then it was Dr. Joe, which was kind of right wing back. And then John Barnes, which was right back. Then Martin was wing back as well. Then left back. Then midfield. Then all over with Martin. But you know, it was just try to. When new managers come in, you're trying to win them all over again. You know, start.
Yeah, it's like starting from scratch again, isn't it? Yeah, starting from the start again. Yeah. But I think one thing, Mark, we can agree that what we could do now within a club is that Jackie could cross the ball. You know,
we could definitely do that.
You know, what would you say, Jackie? Like you named out some of the managers there that you spoke about. Would Tommy Burns be the most one of them all who had the most influence as a player? Tommy Burns, or was there more who got older that helped you?
Yeah, I would say Tommy was the biggest influence sort of on and off the park. Martin O'Neill was obviously the most successful in my time there, you know, in my 10 years. Martin brought some quality players as well into the club. Not just good players, but strong characters. You know, Chris Sutton, Alan Thompson was a fantastic signing. John Hartson, Neil Lennon, you know, Joost Volharen, Bobo Balde. There was a lot of guys in there that he brought in to, you know, really take the dressing room on as well as on the pitch.
Mm-hmm. And the trophies you won, Jack, you won the Premier League. I think was it 4 times, and Scottish Cup and League Cup 3 times each. Was there any special one for you that stood out for you? Or?
I mean, the Scottish Cup, when I scored in the final against Hibs, because you know, that was a team that when I was a young kid I was training with, and they let me go. So it was a wee bit
special to get one up against them, yeah. Yeah,
there was a wee bit of history there, and you know, to come on, and I always seemed to do well against Hibs in my playing career. You know, maybe just that extra little bit of you know, determination to prove them wrong. I think I've done that.
I think you definitely proved them wrong anyway, Jackie. That's what you did.
Your doubters wrong, Jackie, definitely.
You know, to be at Celtic for 10 years, and myself and Mark and Mickey were just talking before you came on, like not only were you a fan favourite, like, but in our eyes, like, you were a legend, Jackie, in our eyes, and for us to have you on here, like we're kind of gobsmacked or starstruck, whatever you call it, you know.
I think Mikey, I don't know
Thanks very much.
Mikey's still there.
I'm still here. I'm just listening
You know-
in the background. Got him to ask Jackie because he obviously named his top 3 players, and obviously any of my favourites was Marafchik. When he signed Jackie, did you have any idea who he was at all? No.
No, never didn't know anything about Lubo. You know, and then again, you go into his first training sessions, and then you see him like close up. You're like, geez, this guy's incredible. His ability, but even when you're
Tell right away that he was different.
yeah, just you couldn't tell which foot he was. You know, which foot was stronger, the power he had in both feet, and it's not like when you hear other people talking. You know, when we played in Ryan Giggs' testimonial down in Old Trafford, Cantona was playing in that match as well. You know, and one of the young kids, it was Liam Miller, God rest him, asked to swap strips with Cantona, and Cantona said, "No, I want Marafchik's strip." You know,
Wow.
So we obviously didn't know, but I mean, the guys in France, Lubo was very highly regarded. You know, with Zidane talking about him as well, and Cantona. You know, they knew how technically gifted and what a wonderful footballer Lubo was.
I was just going on, like you said, we've got on a bit Marafchik again. It was the game against Juventus, the 4-3 game. And I remember Pavel Nedved said after the game that he's one of the best players he's ever played against. So that's saying something when it's coming to guys like him.
Yeah. Just the way he could move the ball from side to side as well. You know, if you're doing 1v1s with him at training, the way he pushed the ball away from you couldn't get close to it to block it. You know, even though, as I said, early 30-year-old, you know, he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
It was quality.
Jackie, of course, you had your own testimony with Celtic after 10 years of Source and stuff like that. What was it like to leave? I know you moved on to Wolves, and like I was reading, doing a bit of background in you before you came on, and was that down to the board coming back to too slow, giving you the, because I know Gordon Strachan wanted you to stay himself, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I don't really know. From my side, you know, with it being them being too slow or not really wanting me, but it was either one or the other, because you know I wasn't difficult to deal with, and waited and try and get it sorted out. So you know they did. I actually saw Gordon a few times recently, and he said that I was quite angry about it at the start when I first left the club, how it was handled and how it was put across, that as if we had a deal done and stuff, which wasn't the case. You know, I actually went down to Wales for less money, but it was more the principle at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
By getting wanted by the club and sorting it out in time, you know. And I just had my third child on the 17th of June. I signed for Wales on the 14th of June, which, you know, being out of contract, it should have been sorted out months before that, not days. So, you know,
that just shows you how kind of out of touch even back then the Celtic board were we. Like dealing with players in that, Jackie, into it's kind of been a thing that's going on for the club for as long as I can even remember supporting them. Just the way some players just seem to get treated as if they're just commodities that you can move on. I mean, after giving the club 10 years of service, you deserve to be treated better than that. And I know, I'm speaking for myself, and I know my pals in that at the time, a lot of us were pretty angry about it, the way you had left.
Yeah, I was disappointed myself, but I mean, I think time is a healer with that one, and you know, I've been into management myself afterwards, and you know, and looked at the other side of football, and it is a business, unfortunately, and you are a piece, as a player, you are a piece of meat while you're wanted.
And what was that like, Jackie? Like, is it like you played the game and you were the one like receiving the instructions, and then you were the one like giving the instructions and stuff like that? Did you have to change the way you approach the game, or to handle players and stuff?
To be honest, I think now the game has changed so much. You know, back then the manager had all the power. you know, for the players and the respect from the players. Now it's like it's totally.
It's player power kind of a thing, Jackie. No,
it's player power. Yeah, you can have a bad month and you've not got any power. You're fighting for your job, you know. And everybody wants you a couple of results, and you know, with the players now, it's very difficult, for some of them to motivate them. You know, and I think we've seen that in Tracy's last year, the way the season went. You know, I think Neil was quoted quite a few times about, you know, players not wanting to be there and different things, and players not coming back fit. You know, it is difficult to manage at times.
It does. It puts a whole negativity as well, Jackie, around the club. Like if you have like a group of players who aren't kind of committed to the club, like it does, it would affect the dressing room as well, Jackie, would it? And from the manager's point of view, then trying to fix it, then like you have two separate groups in the dressing room.
Yeah, and obviously he's got to be careful as well, which you know, in terms of not losing the players.
Yeah.
You know, and the press, you know, when the press are asking him questions or doing things like, and he's protecting them, you know, it's difficult because, you know, you can't. He needs the players to turn up and perform and do well for him, but at the same time, you need that commitment and, you know, the respect back.
I kept mentioning last year, Jackie, when we were on here moaning about the performances of the team and that. For me, you've got to have a certain amount of like professional pride. See, even if you don't want to be at a club playing football, but see, when the transfer window's closed, you know you're going to be there for the next 6 months. So you're in professional pride and pride in your job. To get even for the fans and things like that, you should be there giving 100% no matter what.
I totally agree. I think, you know, I think it was quoted last year in saying that, you know, the players there, especially after the first lockdown, you know, after the first lockdown, it were giving the players a little indication what it feels like to be retired, if you like, because you can't turn up, go to training every day. You're suddenly, you know, as a professional footballer, you have a routine. And for that duration of your career, you know, you're sacrificing nights out, weddings, stags, you know, going out with your pals, golfing days, and you're doing that for, you know, the majority of your career. And then one day it stops, you know, and after that first lockdown, the lads should have had a real taste of what it's like, you know, because they couldn't go and train, they couldn't go
to the new.
Yeah, exactly.
Could have got to the new compared to what could be in front of them.
Yeah.
Jackie, what were your thoughts on last year? I know we're trying to forget about it, like, but what were your thoughts on last season? How this Celtic team crumbled? It just seems like so many problems after problems at the club last year, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think right from the start, you know, the lad bowling goalie, it was, you know, pre-season, players not coming back fit, and I just think last year was like a perfect storm. There was so many things, you know, even players that came to the club you'd think would do a terrific job. Like Shane Duffy would have been a good signing. It didn't work out for different reasons, you know, and he's back playing in the Premier League now.
Like a different player, Jackie, ain't he?
Like a different player, yeah. And I mean, when you get that, people blame the manager. The manager gets the blame for that, but you know, it's players handling the move, handling the pressure. And I was fortunate to go to a few games last year when I was doing the Celtic TV, and it was a strange atmosphere. You know, the players, it's like a training match. I suppose all they're getting afterwards, you know, when it's not went right, is the sort of online stuff rather than, you know, the crowd. Because I think if the crowd had been there last year, they wouldn't accept the performances. You know, that it was given, it would have been a lot easier to get the energy in the stadium as well to help the players.
Help the players, yeah. I think that's something like because we've only done our podcast since February, myself and Mark and Michael, like we're only doing since February, but like that's what we were saying, like that the Celtic fans would have got behind the team, Jackie, or as you said, we wouldn't have accepted these performances. You know what I mean? We'd have been on the team's back, or we would have got. I think if Celtic fans are there, they would have got a performance out of this team last year. Maybe, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think you can see that even this season. You know, at the start, you see the first few games. You know, there wasn't full capacity, but you can see the energy starting to come. And then the capacity builds up. You know, and it's no surprise that we've been strong at home, but we've struggled away from home so far. You know, so we need to sort of get that right.
The player, people say, it shouldn't matter if the crowd's there or no, but you'd say that the crowd they play a huge part in it, Jackie, keeping the team basically on their toes, kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's not just the team, but also the opposition. The opposition will look at that and, you know, terrified of the crowd. It can intimidate them, you know. And as a 12th man, I think that's more than ever. You could see that last year, how important the crowd are.
Did you ever go anywhere that was like intimidating you? Like, maybe Turkey or anything like that?
Don't say eye blocks now, Jackie, please.
I actually loved it, to be honest. I liked the hostility. I loved going to Ibrox and playing, although we still had 8,000 fans there. But you know, I just loved that when you're up against it, and you know, even ones like going to Barcelona and stuff like that. And the Celtic fans are up in a little corner away up there. You can hardly hear them, even though there's quite a few thousand there. But you know, they're great. They're great to be involved in and be part of.
That you brought up, Jackie. I was going to ask you about that. What do you make of the Glasgow derby now regarding what's happened to the fans? The games, like, totally.
I think it has. You know, I don't agree with it. You know, on both sides, I think it just becomes something different. You know, I think that it just creates a kind of a hatred, and it becomes toxic more. You know, it's part and parcel of history of going and supporting your team away from home and going to the places. And I just think it takes away that sportsman side of it. I totally don't agree with it.
It has, and it's taken the whole effect as well, as you said there, Jackie. Like supporting your team, being able to go to away grounds and support your team as a thing, and that's what it's doing. Like it's providing a hatred mark in this between the clubs, like because suppose what Jackie said.
It's ramping up the hatred in the.
Yeah.
I mean, Jackie, what do you think of that? Way, obviously, if you don't like to talk about it, that's fine. But with Neil Lennon and Chris Sutton being banned for Ibrox the other week.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. You know,
I mean, they're members of the press now, basically, really, and that's their job.
Yeah. I don't. You know, obviously, I don't know why they said it was a security risk. They should be able to handle or going into a lounge or something, whatever it is, to go and do the game. But again, as you said, it just creates a problem when there shouldn't be one.
Jackie, would you ever come back into management now? I know you're taking a bit of time for your health, but is that something maybe down the line that you'd like to get back into football management, or?
I would never say never with it, but to be honest, I don't miss it. You know, I had a bad experience at York City. It kind of, I wouldn't say it put me off the game, because I would never do that, but it definitely tested me with it. I noticed a different kind of setup down there at that level. But you know, as I said earlier, the management side of it, if it's just taking the team and trying to help players, improve players, then fine. But it's all the other stuff you've got to do that goes along with it. Which
would you take a step down, Jackie, to be like working with youth players or that?
Possibly. I mean, I did get a lot of satisfaction, you know, when I was at certain times at Partick Thistle and Dundee United, when I was, you know, working with younger players and watched their career go, and you know, starting them off and helping them on their way. You kind of reliving your own.
Yeah.
At that point, you know, I did get some satisfaction with that, but again, with everything else, it's few and far between.
Mhm. And you've been busy, Jackie, the last couple of months, behind the computer screen, writing your book. His name is Jackie McNamara. What brought you to write that book, Jackie, and your biography? You there?
Cut off there. You hear me
Yeah.
okay?
Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. No, I've been asked a number of times over the years to do a book, and I didn't think it was the right time. You're still involved with football, but
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously last year when what happened to me last year and different things, I had a lot of messages with people, with loved ones that maybe had similar situation to myself, and the brain hemorrhage or aneurysm, and talking about that, and obviously I think what I've been through, and I think it was good to put it down into a book and let people see what happened, not just with that, but different things in my career that I went through.
Mm-hmm. It's more like,
Just while you're on about the book, Paul, there's a link to the site to buy it below, and you're doing audiences as well, ain't you, Jackie? Up in the country, you've got audience nights booked as well.
Yeah, get a few locations throughout Scotland, and we're over to Ireland and stuff, and down south as well. So no, I'm looking forward to it. I've been one so far in Greenock, the supporters club there, and it was a great night. It was just great to see people again and being out.
Yeah, it's back to some normality anyway. Jackie, just looking at the current Celtic team, and we kind of want to get your opinion on this. Like, and you talked about the teams you played in, that you had characters within your team. You had Marachek, you had Hartson, you had Sutton, you had Danny Thompson, and players like that. How you fare this team? Like, that they lack characters within this Celtic team, Jackie? Do you think?
I think they're kind of growing. I think they're young. I think it will take time to find these characters in there. I think what's been evident so far is, he's got a strong, maybe 13, 14, but a few injuries like we've had in this last couple of weeks, and you can see there's problems there. If we've not got the strongest team out.
That's what we were saying as well, Mark. It's kind of the squad in depth, isn't it? That it doesn't.
There's no depth in the squad. That's kind of my concern,
Yeah.
Just while we're talking about we're talking about Celtic. Jackie, what do you make of that pitch in Livingston? Do you ever play on anything as bad as that?
I did. It was actually worse than that, and it was actually my old club, Dunfermline. It was actually like tiles. It was like big square tiles put down like a greengrocer would have.
Oh.
And you didn't know what footwear to wear. I mean, don't get me wrong, the one at Livingston, I'm not a lover of Astro anyway. I'm not a lover of it. But the one that Dunfermline had at the time, they all had it for a brief spell. It was like a trial with UEFA or FIFA, and it was horrendous. You didn't know what to wear, boots or trainers or. So Martin, the manager, always complained beforehand and even after, even because when we won, so people didn't think it was just because we didn't get the right result, even when we hammered them, which we did a few times there. He didn't want to look for excuses, but it was a horrendous pitch.
So you don't think that kind of thing should be like a top league? No, obviously.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you look down in England, there was a few in the National League, and if they were to get promotion, which happened to Harrogate Town, they had to go back to grass before they could get into the Football League. They didn't accept them. Yeah.
Well, I think that.
Yeah.
And it is too, like, Jackie, it's a different kind of a ball game as well when you're playing in National. It's tougher. Like, we only play, we say, a half an hour. We were younger, National tough, like, but it's actually tougher on the feet as well to keep it going for 90 minutes on those pitches as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tougher. I mean, you see there how slow it is. I think that was quite evident in the match at the weekend. It slows the game down, and and some players just get spooked by it as well. And you know, I think it's not just the team just now. The last few years, I think we've struggled there, and places like Kilmarnock. So, and
just going by that, Jackie, like the last year and kind of this year as well, we've seen Celtic kind of struggle against teams who kind of put their backs to the wall. Do you think maybe Ange should adjust his system a bit? We know he plays lovely football, and when it's good, Jackie, it's beautiful to watch, and every fan wants beautiful football. But there comes a time against kind of certain teams, Jackie. Does he have to change it, do you think?
Yeah, I think he'll need to, because obviously football's about problem solving, finding solutions to win the match, you know, and just keep doing it the same way. And it's not. I think you see more and more teams like Livingston at the weekend. You know, they're quite happy to let the ball go wide and just cross it in, because we don't have people in there that can dominate in the air, and you know, and you're thinking there. I think there's something like 40 crosses in the game.
Yeah.
You know, and Livingston would be like, right, we're totally fine with that. We'll just let you. They'll not let them through the middle. You know, and everything's going wide. They're just encouraging it to go wide. I don't think we've got a player. Ayeti definitely is not one that's going to dominate in the air and crosses in the middle.
We were talking about him, Jackie, and look, we don't like slagging players. We give every Celtic player the benefit of the doubt, but how does Ayeti fit into Ange's system, do you think, like that? Because he's so fast, and Ayeti seems to be the type of striker that, remember, like an old Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that he wants to be in the back, or Ruud van Nistelrooy or something like that. That's what we think kind of Ayeti is. Do you think that?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're looking at him in his game. I think he's probably more suited to playing with someone beside him, you know, and being like the second striker, if you like, because he's not one that's going to split defence and go in behind and run the channels. He's not one that's fantastic at coming short or dominating in the air. So, you know, I think he's a goal poacher. You know, he's very instinctive in the box. If something drops, he's a good chance he'll be there. But I think you need more than that being a Celtic player, especially if you're leading the line.
And I suppose one player, Jackie, who came in, and look, it was a position that we struggled in last season. We played 3 goalkeepers last season, but Joe Hart has kind of really came in and put a bit of experience into that back line since he's come in, hasn't?
Yeah, I think he's been a good signing. I think you know, I think it was important they got that in. You know, and I think he brings a good bit of experience, but also a calmness at the back. And obviously he lost a few goals recently, but on the whole, I think he's been a real plus signing. And the fact that he's made him captain with the absence of Callum McGregor says it all. It
shows that Jackie, as you said there, the experience that Joe Hart is actually bringing him, like yourself, like he's played in European Championships, he's won leagues and stuff like that. Like you can't buy experience these, Jackie. You know what I mean? Like, and for the price that Celtic got him, like 30, 33, it's a young age, like still for a goalkeeper, isn't it?
Yeah, he's still got plenty years left. You know, I know he's not played a lot of football in the last sort of couple of years. You know, been like understudy, but he's still a top class keeper.
Is there any positions, Jackie, do you think maybe Celtic could have done with in the transfer window? Like you said there, like we kind of have a top 14 players like that we can rely on, like, but after that we're kind of struggling, even with injuries we saw today. Like, you know, is there any position that you thought you would have liked us to improve a bit more?
Yeah, I think looking at it, obviously we've still not seen a few players that have just come in there. So you know, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. The other striker that's came in there, I think they said he could be in the squad tomorrow, although he might not start. So it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts as well. The young lad that they took from Shamrock Rovers, Scales,
He's a
Actually,
nice lad, Jackie.
I actually watched him in the European game. He was playing left wing back in the match. I think the reports I had before were more of a left centre back and a 3. But the game I watched him, he was playing wing back, and he looked like a nice footballer on the ball.
And you wouldn't think of Jackie being 6'4", like, yeah, he's 6'4". Like, I watch a lot of the League of Ireland here, and I was trying to explain to the lads like what type of player he is. Like he can play football, Jackie, and he's fast. But I think he would suit Ange's system, you know. And he'll give us a different option as well, Jackie, because of his height as well, you know.
Yeah, and the game I watched, they actually scored from a set piece, which we don't really tend to do.
No, that's one thing we kind of concede down the opposite end, don't we?
Yeah.
Set pieces and can't cash in on them ourselves.
Yeah.
Jackie, what's your thoughts actually on the like football has changed over years, and now set pieces that kind of gone into zonal marking and stuff like that? Like back in our days, and maybe your days, was kind of you mark the man throughout the game and you stay with that man for set pieces. What's your thoughts on this zonal marking?
I'm not a lover of zonal marking. You know, and I've played in a few teams that actually done it. We started with zonal marking, and you know, expressed my disapproval of it for the obvious reasons. And I think you can do zonal marking to an extent if you've got a big team, you know, a team of giants. But if you've not, I think you're just so open to being bullied. You know, there's have to be a good corner. But if you imagine you're standing there and a guy's got 5 yard running you to run and jump and challenge the same ball that you're looking for, it's impossible. So,
you're not going to get the spring, Jackie, that you need if you're standing still.
Yeah, and they're coming at you at pace with power, and you've got no power as well to be on the back foot. So no, not for me. And I think that's shown to be the case, especially last season with some of the goals and not somebody on the back post area, which was criminal.
See what talk about this zonal marking and that, Jackie. You've probably read it and heard it yourself and things like that. What do you reckon about the problem at Celtic with the coaching? Is it anything to do with John Kennedy? People seem to think because he was a defender, he's in charge of like the defensive coaching.
To be honest, I don't know. You know what goes on and who's in charge of what, or who's who sets up the set pieces, who's in charge of the set pieces. But I imagine the final say will be the manager. Will dictate, and if he's looking at it and going, you know what, I don't like that. I want that changed, or so again, like anything else, it will stop with the manager. And if he doesn't like it, and I think he seems the kind of guy that, so far, for what I've seen with him, that he'll do that. He'll just speak his mind and change something. You know, he doesn't seem the type to just accept things.
Coaches only do what the manager's telling them to do out in the training pitch, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the set pieces wise, you know, the players will walk through that maybe the day before, and then they'll get it up on the board before they go and play in the match. So it's not like a big surprise to them when they turn up, and you know the opposition are trying to get one over them with the set pieces.
Jackie, what have your thoughts been on so far? He hasn't had the best of starts. Played 6, won 3, lost 3. Like there's already planned a few supporters kind of on his back at the moment. But like this has been one of the biggest rebuilds, Jackie, that I can remember being a Celtic fan, and I've been watching Celtic since I was 8, and I'm hitting 40 now. But this has been one of the biggest rebuilds that we had in a very long time. And how do you think Ange's faring?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, in fairness, I do think some of the signs that I've seen from him look encouraging. You know, the way he wants to play, he wants to do things. But I agree with you. I think it's been a big overhaul in players, and you know, from the summer, and it does take time. You know, I think it's the worst start in 23 years. Well, I was in the team 23 years ago. I had the bad start and we went on to win the league, so didn't do too badly.
Kyogo's a huge miss, isn't he? To just and just want the team to play. You can tell, we said it before on here, Kyogo's a kind of linchpin. Everything was going through him under, like earlier on in the season. So he's been a massive miss for us in these games.
Yeah, he is. I think not just his goals, but he stretches the game. You know, and like if you look at it, take for instance the Livingston game there, he would have created more space for others by looking for things in between the full-backs and the centre-backs or in behind, which stretches the game and it gives more space for the midfielders or the number 10s to come into little pockets and get at them. So, you know, a Yeti will come towards the ball and then just enclose it, and you've got no threat in behind at that point.
It's just like kind of without Kyogo, Jack, it slows us down, doesn't it? The whole kind of play is slowed down. As you said, they're like the wing backs and wingers, they've no space to run into because there's no space actually being created. Like, but as you said, like you win a team that had one of the worst starts as well. Jackie didn't have, and he went on to win the league. Like, Ange needs time considering what he has come into, because like the players that left Jackie, I don't think no club would have expected any football team now, especially have so many players leaving at the end of one season.
Yeah, and I think when he came in as well, he looked at players pre-season, you know, and I think he has to do that. You know, I know everybody will say, well, we knew that he was not going to be good enough or he wasn't ready or whatever, but I still think, you know, you've got a duty there to see if he can improve these players early on, which, you know, in saying that, you know, he did improve Ralston, I think, in that short space of time.
What a player. He's turned out to be, Jackie, hasn't he? Anthony Ralston, hasn't he? Fairness to it. So,
you know, the other one's there, but then it takes time to, you know, for him to assess the squad and say, right, I need this, and that. I think obviously it'll not be until maybe after the next window you'll see a real difference to this team.
Mikey, do you want to come in anything there? Or be quiet at the back there?
Yeah, like I said, it's just obviously it's been a bad start to the season, but I can totally understand the fans' frustration, especially because of what happened last. But to play 6 games and lost 3. I think any Celtic manager, no matter who they are, is going to be under pressure. We lost in 3 out of 6. So, like I said, I understand what the style of football at Parkhead, Dundee 6-0, etc. But after we were on the podcast after the Livingston game, and I was on it. I personally felt like Celtic could have played their all day and never scored a goal. And like what you said yourself about the 40 crosses. I don't understand why they keep putting the ball into the box like you said, because they've not got anybody up front that could actually, like Larsson, Sutton or Hartson, know what I mean, that can go and actually win that.
Yeah.
I think that's too, Jack, why Ange kind of needs to tweak his system a bit, against these teams, because I always feel watching football, it's always harder to play against the teams, Jackie, that are struggling for the points and who are going to put 12 men, because they'll play the dirty game, wouldn't they, Jack? They'll do the dirty tackles, or they'll waste time, like we saw with Livingston wasting time. And you have to learn how to kind of beat these teams. You know, you're not going to beat them the way you've always played against Rangers or Hearts, or, you know. Yeah.
It's very important to get the first goal so they come out. They change their game plan. But you could, as I said, there'll be more teams that will play like that against us this year. You'll see it even probably starting tomorrow night against Raith Rovers, who don't get an early goal. You know, and it gives them encouragement and just saying, right, you know what, we'll just keep our 10 players behind the ball here. I'll just keep them shuffling across. We'll let it go wide to the full backs, and then we'll let them cross it in. We'll deal with the cross when it comes in. So it's just finding that extra little bit, you know, to change it and get the better of them.
Jackie, as you said there, giving other players a chance against Wales Rovers. One thing that we've been kind of worried as Celtic fans the last couple of years, I presume yourself has too been a Celtic fan, but with all these young players, Jackie, that are leaving the club at the moment, like they're not getting kind of no pathway to the club. We've players coming out saying that the fella Morrison that moved to Bayern Munich, he said that Celtic actually didn't have a plan for him. They showed him no plan, and that's why he left. Like it seems to be a big problem at the club at the moment, Jack. Don't that young players are leaving before they even make the first team?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think hopefully it will be a bit easier now with the the B team that they've got.
Mm-hmm.
Playing that. I know it's in the Lowland League, but I still think it is competitive for the younger ones to get games. The other ones there, because there's so much pressure on the players. I think you've seen it sort of last year. There's no way you could go and throw a young kid into that environment when you're trying to chase 10 in a row. And I think you've seen it there at the start of the season with the Champions League games, the qualifiers with young Welsh and Murray. The young lad there, such a big ask for him. And the pressure surrounding that, the importance of getting into the Champions League. It's don't get me wrong, it'll help the young kid in the future, but you just hope that they'll learn quickly from it.
Yeah.
But that's the problem they have, though. They should have a feeder team.
One bad passing that's the crowd and the fans on your back, Jackie. It didn't help if you're only like a young lad trying to deal with playing with a club the size of Celtic. If you make a make a mistake, that's social media. I don't know if you use it much, Jackie, but for me it's a poisonous. It's a cesspit. Just even for some of the Celtic fans, the way they treat other players and stuff they put on social media, and these young guys all see that as well. So it just says the pressure to putting a young guy into these situations. It's a big ask for them.
It is, yeah, but in fairness, it's part and parcel of being a Celtic player, is handling the pressure that comes with it. And that's for me, that's what makes a player handle Celtic, is handling the pressure. There's a lot of tier list of guys that were incredible footballers, but the pressure of demands that come with playing for Celtic, it doesn't always work.
Mm-hmm. And like Jack was saying, the pressure coming on Celtic. Jovanovic, when he played against Rangers, like he looked like a player that wasn't phased by the atmosphere at Ibrox. As you said there, you actually love the hostile thing. So like the players who have, like, we've always been saying that Celtic need to be players that need to come in and make the first team better. But Ange has actually kind of done that this season, hasn't he? He's kind of brought in players who are going straight into the first team and they're kind of making the first team better. Like the young lad Abadaz, he looks a great sign for 19 years of age.
He does, yeah. I quite like him. He's direct and he has a go. And I think the Celtic fans respond to that with players. If they're brave and they take people on. And again, I think Kyogo's the biggest excitement. I think that's a good sign that the manager has a good eye. He's seen him over in Japan and thought, right, I'm bringing him to Scotland. He'll do well for me. And he has. Just again, unfortunate that he's injured. But if you can get a few more guys like that with him, I'm sure everybody will be delighted. What
do you think Kyogo's best position is, Jack? Against Rangers, he threw him out the left to bring Edward in, and Ange said that was kind of a mistake that he did. Do you think Kyogo's his best position is down the middle and open up that space around him?
Yeah, it could be. I like him in the middle. Or he could be in that free row if you've got a big target man.
Mm-hmm.
If he had a free role as well, like the second striker or number 10, just roaming around with a freedom that you can go in behind or come short, and you've got a target man that will stay in the middle. I think that would work as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what you were saying, like the kind of
That,
a free road for him. Yeah,
like Lubo used to do, Jackie, really into it. Just let them go out and play their natural game. Let them go out and find the space in the park. Because
Yeah,
I don't think that's the Jacko, the Greek striker. I don't think he's been brought in to sit on the bench or that, Jackie. So that's kind of my thing that Ange's going to have Kyogo in that number 10 kind of role. With,
yeah,
more
yeah.
up front.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm hoping as well, that the guy's going to come in and be that target man. Like, especially you look at the weekend, Yoga's a terrific player, but he's not going to win a lot in the air. Crosses coming into the box, so I think he needs help in there. Somebody that will occupy the two centre backs, and dominate in the air with the chances.
I think Ange as well, like you said there, Jackie, that he's an eye for a player. I think Ange is going to open up a different transfer market for Celtic, over in Asia and stuff like that. That players that we don't know and that we haven't seen, because Kyogo kind of came out of nowhere. Like only God knows what kind of players are hiding over there, Jackie, that we don't know about.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what I'm saying. I think that's a fantastic sign that that he's picked players up like that, and then he'll get some more, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. And this season, Jackie, what do you think? Once we get all the players back and Ange will be able to get his system, because at the moment I think he can't play his best 11 because he doesn't. Obviously the players aren't there, but once everyone is fit, can you see Ange's system working, Jackie, and Celtic going on a run of games?
Yeah, I can actually. Yeah, I think there's enough signs there early. The players look a lot fitter and sharper, and I'm sure he'll just be as frustrated as the fans to get everybody fit and on the pitch as quick as possible. Because the sooner they get back out, the better. But I do think he'll need to maybe strengthen a couple of areas in January.
Sure.
Rather than Celtic and qualifying for the Champions League again this year. What do you make of it? You hit the nail on the head when you said the young Murray and Welsh at centre back. I think it was against Michelin. It seems to be season after season after season that we go into the qualifiers without like an established 11, and we're out before it even starts. And loads of Celtic supporters have been on here moaning about it and forever, and we just kind of quite get our head around why every season it seems to be going the Champions League totally like the squad just doesn't seem to be good enough.
Bear teams together basically, aren't we?
So that's what means.
Yeah, I think this one there is a classic example of obviously getting the manager in later on. Different things. There's not been a lot of time there and getting the players that he needs. It's a mad rush, which takes time. But I think when you look at the years gone by, I think we've always struggled early on because the team's not ready, even with a established, you see with Brendan's teams, they weren't ready. And getting beat off teams that you wouldn't expect. If they played them a couple of months later on, they would beat them no problem. It's just because they're so early on in the season, and it is a big gamble at that point, right? Do you go and push it? But you're hoping now that once he gets his team settled this year, and hopefully he does well if it is the Champions League for next season, which confident it could be, then at least he'll have his team set and ready and fit and ready to go.
It's such an initiative of the season as well, obviously, with whoever wins the league right into the group stages. You didn't get a bigger incentive than that. Yeah,
exactly. And I think it's such a big season, and I think again we need to results even at the weekend with Rangers drawing at home. I think he needs to get on a good run now and have that mentality away from home, which is important.
Like it's a tougher league this season as well, Jackie, compared to everyone's. Like we've the Edinburgh derby back, we've the Dundee derby back. Like all the big Scottish teams they're back in the league. Like so, like there's going to be points dropped on both sides, but Celtic kind of need to capitalise as well on mistakes by Rangers this season,
Yeah, like the weekend there, even the first game, obviously they lost to Dundee United, which is a bit of a shock, but it's important that they go and take advantage of that, and especially the weekend there.
If we were talking about Dundee United, Mikey's pals are all Dundee United supporters. Jackie, is there anything you want to ask about Jackie's time at United, Mikey?
Yeah, what it was actually, it's kind of a funny one. So, Stephen Thompson would have been the chairman when you were at Dundee United, yeah.
Yeah.
So when this is a bit of a funny story. So I did all the plumbing in Stephen Thompson's house in Broughty Ferry. And I always found him quite. It's just like a strange. Like I was in his house for about, I think it was about a month, and speaking to the guy, I found him quite strange. And like my mate Jonas that comes on the podcast as well. I was at the Dundee derby with him on Sunday, and obviously I knew that what was going on. And he was going to ask, and how was it like working with him compared? Like I don't know if you ever met his dad or that, but like Stephen himself.
I mean, I'd never met his dad. I obviously heard good things about his dad. Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't easy. He's quite I wouldn't say my relationship it was really bad to start. It was okay to start with, but it kind of broke down after a while. When my contract got leaked, but I knew, to be honest, going up there it was going to be a tough job. People would warn me about Stephen and the club and different things, but I had belief in my remit going up there. It was a 5-year plan to get rid of their debt, and we've done it in 2.5 years. Albeit we had to sell a lot of the players, but the players, we helped get them to that level in the first place. But it wasn't easy, but I wasn't too happy how it ended there.
Yeah, because obviously you want to obviously when you first came to Dundee United, like all the supporters were desperate for you to do well, and I think 99.9% of them are in agreement that you would have been successful if it would have had more backing from him. Yeah,
well, I mean, again, it's one of the ones that said when you've got that kind of debt, how does Dundee United get out of the debt that we're in? The only way they can do it is somebody else comes and buys the club and gets rid of the debt, or you sell your assets, which they had to do, but they didn't have the assets to start with. We helped bring them in. They brought in Robertson from Queen's Park for very little money, Nadir Chifsey, and we helped develop the other players that were there. But I think if you ask the United fans what's the best football and the best bit there, and they're probably, I'd be surprised if they didn't say they really enjoyed watching my team, when I was manager there.
So you were manager as well when they told, was it Armstrong and Mackay Stephen to us? Were you?
Yeah. When they moved to Celtic, Jackie, you were the manager when they moved to Celtic as well. I was going to say, Jackie, you're talking about depth there, like one club that looks like to be in trouble down south is the Derby United with Ray Rooney. It just shows like how the pandemic, Derby, how the pandemic has really affected teams as well, Jackie. This year, like you've Barcelona, you've Real Madrid, it's kind of an end of an era for Barcelona, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't think, the great team like that with the history and the, worldwide, publicity that they get, that they would have serious problems with the fact that they lost Messi on a free. Just tells you everything, and it's difficult to watch, because obviously they're a massive club, they're a giant, and I think that's the most important bit, is the club obviously is there, sustainable, and don't do anything silly, as we've seen over the last number of years in Scotland.
That's been hit, Jackie, but these clubs like Barcelona, Real Madrid, and they've just spent crazy money for years that basically they couldn't afford, and we bought them.
Yeah,
They're big, massive clubs in that, but I mean, even when you were a manager and that, I mean, we're not obviously wanting to get into it, but how would you feel? It's like basically another club was just outspending you, and you knew that they couldn't afford it, and that nobody was going to say anything, they were just getting away with it.
Yeah, I mean that was happening. Because when I went into Dundee United, like the previous manager, Peter Houston, had just finished there. Had resigned, said he couldn't take the club forward, and he couldn't live with the budget cuts. The kids weren't ready, and then we came in, and we lived with the budget cuts, and we made the young kids, helped the young kids get ready. And we changed it all, get rid of their debt. But again, we were treated like villains on the back of my contract. When we actually, you look at it from the outside in, we've done a great job there. I think that's the disappointing thing about it.
That's how I mentioned when sold Armstrong and Marcus Stephen. They didn't even replace them. So how could they sell their two players in January and not replace them and expect the club to do well?
Yeah, well, I mean, like GMS, Gary McKeston he'd signed a pre-contract with Celtic, and Stewart just, again, I didn't know I would lose Stewart. It was the last minutes of the window, so I had no time to get a replacement, and I actually tried to get Scott Allen from Hibs at the time, but I was unsuccessful in that. We ended up taking a player in for Kilmarnock I didn't know much about, just a panic, because I was sure I just lost two players. And it wasn't easy, but I mean, the full job at United wasn't easy.
How hard is it, Jackie, to get in and speak to chairman or chief executives and like get money out of them, whether it's for players or something that maybe you think we should be investing in some other aspect of the club like that? What's the process? Are you actually in there arguing and fighting for money, for like transfer fees and wages for players?
No, because I mean, I knew going up there, what I had to do was to try and use players in the academy, try and bring players in. Like, what I did at Partick Thistle was getting young boys out from different clubs that had been released, give them that second chance. Partick Thistle was a tough job, so that helped me deal with that. And my philosophy was most of the players that we had, when we first signed them, if you take Andy Robertson, for instance, we took him from Queen's Park. Could we afford him when we got him to start with? Yep. And could we afford him a year later? No, we couldn't. Because he went for $3 million to Hull within 12 months. So that's a point about recruitment. It's you're bringing players in.
Lines into you're working to find lines.
Yeah.
But at Dundee United, were you involved in like every process of recruiting players? Did you have like
we didn't really have anybody in recruitment, unfortunately. Again, this is the difficulty. We didn't have a recruitment department or director of football, so it was kind of between the chairman and myself and whoever was there to pick players.
Do you think, Jackie, it's important for Celtic to start going down that they brought in sports science now, but do Celtic need to like go with the modern day football now and bring in a director of football to get a foundation in the club?
Yeah, I think it's been talked about before. Yeah, I do think it's important to get somebody like that in. I think when you've got all these staff and head of sports science and different things, there needs to be accountability. Accountability for the academy, accountability for the recruitment, accountability. Was normally just like last year, everybody was blaming two people, which was Neil and Peter Law were taking the flak. But there's a lot of staff in there. There's a lot of players in there. And for players not being fit, you've got head of sports science. Somebody could take that player aside and get them fit. It's their job as well. The managers shouldn't have to be pushing things for the players to make sure he's fit enough. It's maybe the days gone by, old, but not now when you've got all these people in there doing their jobs.
But sir,
Yeah, the man just.
what was the sports science when you were playing at Celtic?
Sports science, when I was there, with a big lad called, well, it's actually two. It was Jim Henry, but he was more, he'd do like sort of strength conditioning work with us and take the warm-ups with Tommy. Then later on with a guy Kenny McDonald, who'd been there a number of years. He was very good, but it's not as in depth, you know, the GPS.
All the data, that they have now, all the data.
Yeah, it wasn't as advanced as that then. And obviously, then it was your body fats and different things as well. But you know, I think when I was playing, it was just kind of starting off that side of it in the game. But it is important. It is important.
And Jackie, the board level now at the moment just seems to be up in there again. We thought we were on a new road with Dominic Mackay, but that didn't work out for personal reasons and stuff like that. How do you think the Celtic board go now? Do you think this fella Nick Singh's going to be the new CEO? Does it look like that, do you think?
I would think so. You know, I think there's Michael Nicholson in just now, taking it temporary. We're not, he gets it full time if that's what he's wanting, or the board decide. But I think for peace of mind, I think we need to do something. I announce him, and then in different departments, if it's going to be a director of football or sporting director coming in as well.
Because it just seems to be kind of a shambles at the moment, Jackie. Don't they, at board level, you know? That's what it does at Celtic, you know. There seems to be kind of no direction or kind of no plan or something like that, you know.
Well, I don't know, obviously, why Dom's left and, you know, why there's change there. I actually had a couple of meetings with him and seemed a decent guy. You just hope it's nothing, you know, nothing bad that he's left for. But, you know, wish him all the best. But, I mean, the club, I think when the team's winning, nobody really bothers about the board or anything else that's happening behind the scenes, you know, and that's just the way football is. When the team's not going well, then, you know, it just puts more questions to that, what's going on. So, yeah, the secret is win games and everybody's happy.
Exactly.
That's exactly how. I mean, we've got a wee forum for this, Jackie, and that's where we all came from. But I said, even when we were winning the 9 in a row there, I was always saying things about what was going on behind the scenes, and I used to get told, "Oh, you're just looking for someone to moan about," and that. But you could see that Peter Law had dropped the ball for the last few years, really, couldn't you?
Again, if I look at last year, I think it was a difficult one because, you know, what they had done before the recruitment, they changed it all last year. I think there was such a you know, a focus and a distraction, maybe the 10 in a row. You know, like you said, Duffy, you know, spending that kind of money, bringing a centre half in loan, which wouldn't have happened 4 years ago. You know, I think it was these things were done to try and just secure the 10 in a row.
Even like Edward for another year, and think.
Yeah, exactly. You know, was Dembele went the last bit of the window, but you know, I think the club side, can you imagine that Edouard did go last summer and it still turned out the way it would? The fans would be going, they'd be blaming it. You know what I mean? The fans.
I've said that every Celtic fan was delighted last summer when the transfer window shut. Jackie, we'd bought a £5 million keeper. We brought in Shane Duffy. We kept Edward. We kept Christie. So you can't, for me, you can't moan at the board for because they did gamble on the 10 in a row. But I just always felt Peter Law I put it back to when John Park left, Jackie. To be honest, when John Park left, Peter Law kind of it just seemed to be the Peter Law show. And I keep saying it on here. It's like people that don't know about football are making decisions about football, and that's never a good thing.
Yeah, I mean the John Park. Yeah, there's been a lot of sort of change in the recruitment side in the last number of years. You know, obviously, I think it went as well at the end of the season there. What can't remember his name. That's terrible. But he just left. Matt Hammond. Yeah.
Hammond.
So yeah, he's away now. So looking at right, who's going to be in now and making the decisions. Recruitment is hard. It is hard because you can't just go and magic out Van Dijks every year. Unfortunately,
like you said there, Jackie, if someone, like you said there, like your own experience with Dundee, like when Armstrong was kind of a last minute deal, and you'd know it to remove her in such little time. Like it's really always like if you don't have the paperwork in by the deadline, and then you're going to relate to, as you said, Jackie, panic buys. And I think that's what happened to Celtic a lot over the years was panic buys.
Yeah, and you're also you're dealing with England as well, and it's difficult to compete. With the wages and the stuff they're getting, even with Championship, never mind Premier League, and that's difficulty. That's the difficulty the club's got.
Jackie, before we go, and look, it's been a pleasure for me to talk to a Celtic player that I watched growing up and who I loved watching growing up. Just want to say thanks very much for coming on. Best wishes with your health and whatever the future takes for you. Big thanks, and I suppose the lads in the live chat here. Like we were actually buzzing to hear that you were coming on our podcast. Mark, who kind of started all this, we actually couldn't believe it. Mark.
Oh, just thanks very much, Jackie, for coming on, and hopefully we can get you on again sometime if you think we've done all right, because this was totally out our kind of comfort zone, Jackie, getting somebody like you on here, to be honest with you. But thanks very much for coming on, and well, seeing as
pleasure.
Mikey's sitting there and he's a wee fanboy, Jackie, so I'll give him the last word to you, mate. Thanks very much, Jackie.
Right. You too, thank you.
Just wanted to say as well, so I'm on the website for the book, and I've noticed that hopefully depending on COVID, in New York in December.
Yeah.
I get married on the 3rd of December, and me and the missus are due to fly out on the 4th of December to New York for a week. So hopefully, hopefully I might be able to actually catch the show on the 5th of December when you're over there. So
I don't think your wife will be too happy on her honeymoon seeing me, but
no getting it. I think it's an anniversary, isn't it, Mikey?
No, I got married this year on the 3rd of December, then I fly out to New York, meant to be.
I didn't know that.
Where did you go on your honeymoon? Went to see Jackie McNamara over there.
New York.
Exactly.
My first date with my wife is Celtic v Hearts. We get in and her ticket was right behind a big steel pillar. You couldn't even see the park or nothing. Hey, Jackie, again, thanks so much. Really, I appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Jackie.
Cheers. Good luck, guys.
Cheers, bye-bye.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Wow. That was good, wasn't it?
We're still live.
Knock us off.
What?
Knock us off. Are we keep going?
We might as well if you want for a wee while.
Yeah. Right, lads, there you have it.
Mikey,
Jackie McNamara.
Yeah.
Aye.
Jackie, I think he really gave us an insight, Mark, how it was like to play for Celtic, how it was to actually be a man, like the difficulties it actually is to be a manager, like what he said there, like lose the player chance for deadline, Mark, and you know what to remove us. You don't panic buys he's related to,
I mean, he said a lot of the things that we've all said as well, how things work with transfers and that everything can change like that. And
yeah,
I really enjoyed that. You happy with that, Mikey, bud?
Yeah, I was just like says, I was also interested, obviously, about the whole management side, because I thought he would have been a success in management, and that's why I wanted to bring up that whole Stephen Thompson thing, because the guy's got his dad, Eddie Thompson, with Dundee United, is a living legend.
He was a different kettle of fish to the boy. I can mind all that going on, Mikey.
Son to go there, and obviously I met him. I lived in the house for about a month doing it. It was actually my dad that was there as well. The plumbing in his new house and that, and man, I've never came across. That's why I wanted to ask him, because I didn't want to put him too much on the spot, because obviously his personal details and that. But I knew, like it says, when I met him, that he would have been an impossible guy to work for. Like, and it's just a shame, like it says, because at Partick Thistle, when he first started as a manager, he did like he was one of the most sought after young managers in Scotland at the time. Moved to Dundee United, and Stephen Thompson basically killed him.
You could see there as well, Mark. You could see what Tommy Burns, and like we spoke about Tommy Burns a lot. Show we did a podcast about him as well. How much Tommy Burns had on Jack, not just at the club but outside the club, and how he helped away. You could see a bit of Tommy Burns coming through to Jackie McNamara with how he was developing young players, how he actually took pride in seeing the young players progress in their careers. Like he mentioned Andy Robinson there, Stuart Armstrong, the young lad Mackay Chifty was another player that he said he bought. She was a young player. Like Jackie has developed a lot of young players within Scotland as well himself, hasn't he? And it's achievement within himself. Like,
Aye, but he seems to kind of get a wee kind of personal buzz out of doing that. That's when
yeah,
surely, I mean, surely if Celtic, if Gordon Strachan's in there looking at our youth setups and that, surely Celtic can find a place for somebody with even his kind of experience and knowledge.
Exactly. You know, like to talk to Jackie McNamara there, like, and I know he's been around other podcasts and stuff like that, Mark. But as you said there, like this is out of our comfort zone doing this. Like,
I admitted it, Paul, man.
Yeah.
Mikey, I was pure up to high door about this. We knew it was happening.
You know, but before we, like, the way he came across, like, you know, we asked him questions and he was honest about them. He was honest about the club where it is now. Like, he knows we're short on players. He said we could still do a few players, but he admitted, look, there's a January transfer window. But like he's saying, Mark, what all Celtic fans are saying as well, like it really needs calm for Ange to implement his stuff that he needs to do. You know, like he can't do the full effect of Ange ball if he doesn't have the effective players to do it.
No,
you know?
but even I said there, Paul, as well, Kyogo's a big mystery. Just for the I think for the full system that Angie's want to play, Kyogo's a big miss. But what was I going to say there now? What did you say there?
I'll move on. Like, even when he talked about the experience of Joe Hart, you know what I mean? Like he said there, like it's what Joe Hart brings, and for him to get the captaincy after Callum McGregor and he's owned it there. But that's what we were saying with yourself, Barry, Michael. That's what Joe Hart and for a professional footballer and Jackie McNamara to actually agree what we were saying, Mark. Do you know what I mean? You know, this is what Joe Hart is actually bringing to the club. You know, and to hear Jackie Mark kind of voice the same things that we were saying, like, do you know what I mean?
But he was talking about bringing in players like Chris Sutton and Hartson and that are like personalities. Joe Hart's the same type of person. Do you know, if Joe Hart will be that kind of person in the dressing room, a big player. I mean, I can't mind, I think it was one of the European games, and it might have been Midtjylland, and one of the opposition players were kind of chasing Joe Hart about the park to get his jersey off him. And that's, I mean, that shows you kind of, he's a big name player, but he's a big name to be in Scottish football. He really is. It's back to the type of times when we did get down to England and signed like English
big players. I just noticed one player he said, Mark, and I mentioned that Celtic were always kind of being bullied off the field, and we need players like Neil Lennon and Alan Thompson. It was interesting to hear Jackie mention Alan Thompson, that he was actually a big character when he came into the dressing room. You know, I think that's what Celtic at the moment kind of don't have. They don't have like an Alan Thompson type player, a Neil Lennon type player. You know, someone who would get dug in, Mark, do we? You know?
No, I've sort of said that as well, Paul, but listen, that kind of just physicality over the park, in my opinion. Every kind, even I know Carlton Vickers could be the man, but still no enough for me. Do you get what I mean? I don't know if Julian can. I mean, I've always said I think Julian's a bit kind of powder puff and didn't like the kind of physical side of things, but I don't know whether him and Starfelt, Carlton Vickers will be a good partnership, but we need more physicality over the park. I mean, we're talking about guys like Thompson, Sutton, Hartson, Larson. Do you get what? Even Petrov. Petrov was he'd a physical. Aye.
Yeah. Going by, like, what impressed you most about talking to Jackie today, Mark? Like, sorry for putting you in the spotlight, but like he really like starstruck us, didn't he? Like he came on genuine to us. He was a real. You could see why he's a legend at the club, Mark. Couldn't you? You know.
Just as I said, Paul, I've admitted it. You and Mike, as soon as we found out this was happening, we knew it was happening. We just didn't know when. But I was shitting myself, to be honest, about it. My nerves were going and everything. But I mean, I know you do all your scripts and stuff, but I just took it. We'll just do what we normally do and just see where the conversation goes and let it flow.
Because we were the.
You're still things you want to ask him, but you're not wanting to ask him questions that are out of order. Do you know what I mean?
If the lads don't know, like my house is under major revamps, and I actually had to move out of the house tonight, Mark, off to my sister's house to actually do this podcast because I didn't want the podcast to be cancelled because we had Jackie McNamara on, and like as Mark said there, like
and missed a confirmation that he left the house for a week too early.
He left. I told my sister I wasn't going to her son's confirmation today, that I had an important thing to do with my podcast, but of course she didn't understand.
As I said earlier, this was down to John, Paul. John Paul.
Big thanks to John.
Down to John, United Ireland. It was him that sorted all this out. And it was actually months ago he got in touch about it and said that he could maybe get it happening, but then it was back that Jackie was going to be busy about September time, wasn't it? And fair play to everybody that we've got it done for September. I'm damn chuffed to bits, to be honest, Paul, that we got him on. I hope you lads feel the same.
Yeah, one of the questions I actually forgot to ask him was when he was at Dundee United with Andy Robertson, if Celtic were ever interested in getting him, if there was any ever contact, or that would have been interesting to find out. Before you went to Hull.
And even like that,
Cork Paul, we wait for Jackie McNamara.
Dead right.
You're on the live chat.
Mark, what did my wife say? Go to your sister's house to do the podcast. I know how it's important to you. You know, like what we do, Mark, and I think that the lads on the forum now know like that. Like we planned the podcast like a week before. Like, you know what I mean? We're doing up everything the week before, and you know, Jackie McNamara was kind of a last minute thing yesterday, Mark, when we kind of got the final confirmation, and you know, like, wow, you know, it was amazing to have him on. Like, you know, I think the nerves have settled a bit. You know, I think once you got talking to Mark, you could realise that, you know what I mean, he's a genuine guy. Like you could see how upset he actually was, Mark, how he left Celtic. You know, how it was handled. You could sense it off from that. He actually didn't want to leave. Do you know what I mean? He actually did want to stay at Celtic. You know, but as like,
no, he was looking after his family, Paul. We just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that reminded me of Barry. Barry, when same situation was him when Dundee went into liquidation. Barry made a choice that he had to go and work. Just like footballer's career, Mark, it's so short. You know, people don't realise that. Like it's so short. Like, and you have to think what's best for you. And unfortunately for Jackie, like he took a pain.
Paul, when you're a young player or an older player, you're looking for like a bit of long-term security. You know what I mean? If you're 24 or 25, you'll maybe sign a 2-year contract. But if you're like 19 or that, you're maybe looking for a 3 or 4 year contract. And then I know about clubs only giving players at a certain age, only a year deals continue. But if you're 33 or 34 and a club offers you a year's contract and somebody offers you a 2-year contract on, I don't know, for just talking sake, £2,000 a week less, you're going to take the 2-year one because you're the 2-year that's getting you more money.
It's more security as well, Mark, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. It's more security. You've got to think because, as Jackie said as well about when the first lockdown came in, all these players realised, look what I've got to now, and when I'm retired, this is it. I'm stuck in a house.
Yeah.
Stuff to fill my days and things like that.
And that's like when things, Mark, like mental health come in as a footballer, like, you know what I mean, like that. Like Jackie said there, like you're stuck in a routine. You go play football, you eat with your friends in the club, you go playing golf with them, you go for a drink with them. Like, you do everything really with your football team. Do you know what I mean?
They're all doing it at the same time. If you're training with your teammates and two guys are going to play a game of golf, you're going to go with them, because if you're a footballer and your pals are welders or mechanics or something, they're not available to go play golf at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's just time with like teammates and other guys involved in football that you maybe knew at other clubs previously and you became friends with.
And Mickey, yourself, you know, like, you always taught us the stories about getting the sponsorship, and your dad used to freak because you wanted McNamara on the back of your jersey. How was it for you today, Mikey, to talk to your hero that you followed growing up?
Yeah, like you said, it was funny as well because obviously I was quiet in the background, but at one point it was buying his book on the website while the podcast was going on, and that's what I'd also say to the guys in the chat as well. If you actually go on, his name is McNamara.co.uk, and you can actually get a
name for a book, actually, Mike, isn't it? His name is Jackie McNamara. I mean, that's a good name for a book, like, isn't it?
And that's the actual website as well. His name is McNamara.co.uk, and you actually get a signed copy if you go on the website just now.
Is that a signed copy? The link for the website's in the description box below the video and that. So if you buy the book, it'll be a good book. I didn't know you got a signed copy like that, because I've actually got in touch with John to ask if the lady that helped set this up, I don't know if it's Jackie's agent or that, I said, can we buy a copy and get it signed and get it away as just a competition prize or that? But if you're just getting them willy-nilly off on the website...
I think it's just on, you can buy it from Amazon and that as well, but I think it's just on his actual website of the book where you can actually get a signed copy. So I think it's limited numbers that are left, but I managed to get it.
You're fair choice to him, like,
sorry?
You know what I mean? Like for a man, and I thought, like, that's why I said I'd ask him at the start, like, you know, how was his health and how was he feeling, like, because the man did have a bad scare last year, like, and I think, you know, like, when you have a scare like that, like, and yourself too, Mickey, like, you were scared the last couple of weeks as well, like, and stuff like that, but it does put your life into perspective, Mark. I mean, the Jackie think that now is the right time to write his book. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, it does kind of change your outlook in life, Mark. I know I was in hospital myself, and I was in intensive care. Like, it does change your life, Mark. Do you know what I mean?
I think that would change your total outlook, even. Although it wasn't life-threatening, but even my accident and things like that, Paul. But I mean, I've had to change everything about my life for then. Just to see you had to, do you know what I mean? I mean, it's a serious thing.
Mickey's life has changed since he came on the podcast.
I send him wee gifts to Samantha to be witched, wiggling her nose as if we're just hexing him and that, but everything will go wrong. He bought that Mercedes, he'll be driving out the door one day and it'll just blow up.
Jesus Christ, the wheel will come off or something. Yeah.
Horses bus, it'll just blow up.
When he was naming them, go on, Mike, sorry.
Talking about that, it wasn't until Mark said that he's about the podcast and yourself, about this run of luck that I've had since I've started doing this podcast, like, and it wasn't until
you had, like,
I was actually thinking, they're actually right, like, and
he has, like,
but,
when you started getting involved in the football, then you does your leg before the game of football, and then you fucking think like.
I'll talk about it on a totally different podcast, but obviously it says I was looking into doing a charity game again for my mum for for cancer, because she's going through treatment just now. So there's been progress in arranging another charity match for the end of the season, and it's at a different stadium. I'm not going to say where it is, but it looks like it's going to be at a different stadium, and it's actually going to be on a grass pitch. So
very good. Good
stuff.
Lads, before we go and stuff like that, when he named out the players like that he's played with, like just throughout these years, like even the managers, Mark, like Tommy Bonds, Martin O'Neill, Dr. Joe, the freaking Tommy Boyd, John Barr, Tim Jansen, John Barnes. It was good and bad, man.
6 managers and he still held down a position in the team.
Yeah.
And I see when he was talking about Martin O'Neill played him over the park, I can mind that because I used to, I don't know if it was with wee Kenny that comes on, Kenny or one of our other pals. I used to kind of argue with him, but he's playing in midfield, do you know what I mean? Because you weren't sure where he was actually playing till the game was started, but that just shows you how good a player he was.
Ange's system, Jackie McNamara would be the type of player that would excel in Ange's team, wouldn't he? The way he up and down the wings, marking, crossing the ball. Like, I remember some crosses there, Jack Mark was playing that box, and like we don't even have a player now to put a ball into the box hardly.
See, if you look back, even I was at a quick look through like Jackie's Celtic wiki page thing the day, and there was a couple of quotes for his dad just talking about his determination to succeed. I honestly think Jackie McNamara could have played. He could have played at a probably higher level than the Scottish League. He could have. He really could have. I know we talk about. We thought me and Mikey going about McGregor could play down in the top end of Premier League and things like that. But at the time, even then, Jackie McNamara could have done the same.
Well, Mark, that's what we've been saying about players now with us now, like that could have, but stayed because of their love for Celtic. And Jackie's another example of that. We'd Scott Brown, who's an example of that. James Forrest is another example of that. Cal McGregor's another example. And then you have players like Jackie quoted what you were saying for months, Mark, in the podcast. The players have a duty to the club. They're still conscious to the club to play for the club. And the modern footballer now, Mark, just downs tools,
professional pride, Paul. I mean, you go to work every day. If you go to work every day, Mikey goes to work. See, if you go to work every day, earn a day in your job, right, you're going to get into bother for it. You're going to get pulled up for it, get warnings, But it just seems acceptable for football players just to turn up and no try a leg. Where's, I've said all the time last season when we just started the podcast and that, Paul, where is your own personal pride and just giving everything you've got? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not knocking their melt in for £8 an hour of that, Paul.
You
get what that's.
So, folks, that's it for tonight. Thanks to Michael as always coming on with us. I hope he delights it tonight, that he'll sleep well tonight dreaming of Jackie McNamara and that he got to talk to him. I'm personally delighted.
With stage bombing in New York. Maybe spoke to you on my podcast.
We're meant to like some fancy restaurant in the middle of Manhattan, and now we're going to see Jackie in like a
exactly.
Well, Mikey, just as long as you don't do anything during the show, you'll be fit and ready for when you get back to the hotel with.
And don't be rushing, because you know that curse from the podcast is still there. So
Viagra that night, Mikey.
Thanks to you guys for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the special edition tonight with Jackie. I personally did. For me to speak to a Celtic player that I grew up watching, it was just unimaginable, and I never thought I'd get this. This wouldn't have happened without Mark, wanting to set up this podcast. So my own special thanks to Mark for letting me be on this podcast with him, for having a chance to speak to Jackie McNamara.
Don't need to thank me for anything, Paul. The podcast would be nothing without you, Mikey, Barry, everybody that joins in every night. We're on here doing this. No need to thank me. All I do is push a few buttons.
Push my buttons, mate. That's what you do. Mark, close the show, buddy.
Right, thanks very much, Paul. Mikey, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks everybody for joining the live chat. And remember, like it, subscribe, and if you know how to, please leave a comment. Hail, hail, God bless.
we often